Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 88. So we are joined today, I'll introduce with the usual hosts that we have, and we have a really fantastic guest on today, joining us from Seattle in the Pacific Northwest of America. So I will first of all introduce Mr. Peter Lant, who is in Bath in England. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very, very good indeed. Thank you. Yeah. Are you?
Marvelous. Yeah, no, I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this.
Weather?
Sorry? I'm loving the weather. It's great. Yeah, I've been out with the boy today, doing some headstands and stuff like that. I was lifting stones yesterday. I found some stones on one of the walks that we do. So I was lifting those. There was one I managed to get just off the ground last week on Friday. And I went up there yesterday and I managed to get it up, but I couldn't get into the bottom of a squat to steady it for some reason. My excuse is that I was facing uphill, so it's harder to squat down. I might be right, I might be wrong, who knows? So I'm going to go up again tomorrow and have another go. So it's on a 10-mile walk that we do. It's about 3 miles in, so that's really good. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to this today because I've been following this guy, who you've probably seen now because he was laughing and it showed his face. But yeah, I've been following this guy for about 10 years, and it's been an interesting journey.
Brilliant. And how are you? Paul, in Putney in London?
I'm all right. I'm not bad. Nothing controversial to follow Peter by, so I thought I'd say something controversial. Peter, I want to pull you up. We all share the same coach. So Paul McElroy shows a rather impressive video of him jumping with a 40-kilo kettlebell. And then you request him to do it topless with cut-off jeans made into hot pants.
Yeah.
Don't forget to spray yourself with baby oil first.
Yeah. That.
Was that a legitimate request, or was it?
Yeah, of course it was. Of course it was. That's what we all want to see, that. Because I'm sure with he's a Celtic red-haired Irishman, so I'm sure he's got a lovely tan as well.
Well, that's how we follow that now from Paul.
Yeah, I'll leave you to follow that one, James.
I was going to say, I did notice. I listened to one of the podcasts the other day, and I could hear myself. It was really annoying listening to it back because you two were talking, and I kept going, I don't know if you recognise that, but I was kind of nodding in agreement, but I was going, So I'm going to stick back from the camera today, and I'm going to try and avoid doing that. That's what I want to do.
I think you should embrace it and just keep going, good point, every now and then.
I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been with Brit. I think it might have been with Brit or one of the ones we did on our own. But anyway, I digress.
We could try a different interjection this time, like splendid. Sorry.
Yes. No, I'll keep saying it. I'm just going to sit back.
But here we go. This is James walking the walk, doing exactly what he says he does in daily life, and he's basically, checking himself and being not critical of himself, but reflecting on what he does and trying to make himself a better person by not annoying you on this podcast.
As a listener, it was annoying me, so I thought I've got to stop doing it.
What we need is a particularly dedicated listener to chop up all those bits and stick them together in a single.
What, like me?
Yeah. Peter, can you do that? Thanks. Write the show notes as well.
Anyway, guys, we are joined today by Jeff Sokol. Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
Hey, gents. Happy to be here.
Excellent. So I'll just quickly let the guys know. I mean, Pete mentioned that he'd been following Jeff for a long time. I think the first time I became aware of Jeff was years ago I think he did a podcast for Strength Matters, I think, a long time ago. I mean, it must be, again, 8-10 years ago, something like that. And then was following Jeff on social media and things like that. And then in 2015, I was on my honeymoon in the Pacific Northwest. And everywhere I went to Vancouver and Seattle and Portland and Vancouver Island and all different places. And everywhere I went, I kind of wanted to try and catch up with coaches that I may follow or people who I may be aware of. And I I pinged Jeff a message when I was in Seattle, and he said, "Yeah, come down and we'll do a session." And at the time, I think I'd seen a picture of you, Jeff, where you were. It was a heavily kind of, it was a very arty shot of you wearing the Bane mask from Batman, I think, with two heavy kettlebells in front of you, and it's black and white, and it was really menacing and serious. And I thought, oh God, I wonder what this guy's actually going to be like in person. and I walked in, and you were at like a spinal health place at the time in Seattle, I think. And I walked in, and you just turned and said, "Hey, stud," like this, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's," and you were just such a lovely guy and really helped me. We had a good session together, and at the same trip, I met Molly, who we've spoke about over at the Fuel House, who I know we'll kind of get into that later, but yeah, so it was fantastic. And then lots of the times on the course of this podcast, your name has been mentioned probably at least a dozen times on different podcasts by people just bringing your name up in conversation and around things. So it's a real honor and a pleasure to actually have you on for a full episode. So yeah, thanks so much for being here, Jeff.
Oh yeah, totally stoked. I remember that trip when you reached out. You said you remember me, and I was like, "Come on, man! How could I forget such a stud like yourself? Freaking athlete, moving well. No, that was a great time. Yeah. I get great pleasure when people come in from different regions and come train with me. And I don't think I didn't charge you, did I? Because I don't think I usually charge people.
No, you didn't. And I
yeah.
I went on and got one of your T-shirts, which I'm wearing today.
Yeah.
So it's one of the good
That
ones.
would have been hilarious. It's like, oh, what a nice guy. He charged you on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
For coming in to say hello. I mean, blimey.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
No, it was great. And I remember, I think at the time you sort of introduced me, because since I've gone on and done kind of ground force method and stuff myself, but I think we used ground force method to warm up, and we did a really good, really great session. It was it was really, a great pleasure to meet you in person and to do a session with you. So Jeff he's a strong first elite. He is so much more than that though as well. And I don't want to degrade. Strong first elite is a massive thing, but Jeff's got an amazing backstory, and I think just the way he's sat outside at the moment having a coffee at 7 a.m. in Seattle while we're doing this, so it's great. He's got an umbrella up in case it starts to rain. But yeah, Jeff, do you want to? I mean, I did put a post out a couple of days ago and said, look, we're interviewing. We've got Jeff on. If you don't already follow him, please give him a follow. And we'll obviously give your Instagram a bit of a plug later and things. But do you want to tell the listeners and us a kind of a little bit, I suppose, about your background and how you came to where you are now? I mean, I know you've got a long backstory, which is really interesting, and if you'd like to share some of that with the listeners now, we can just kind of dive in and ask questions on the way, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So and do dive in, because I start to ramble, man. You know what I mean? So cut me off at any point, but I mean, if you want to go way back, I was actually born in California. I think I was probably conceived in a van at a Woodstocky type of situation or something. Mom was kind of a hippie type, but and then at 3 we moved to this little itty bitty town in Washington. It's a logging town, full of a bunch of hardcore logger type people. Small town, hardworking, very patriotic. Just people that work hard, love their country, do their stuff. Maybe by no choice of their own, haven't been exposed a lot to the real world and a lot of culture, but still just real good people. And growing up there, basically as a kid, you either play sports or you learn how to work on cars or something like that. And I grew up in a, I don't know what you guys call them there, but here it's a like trailer, like a double wide little trailer situation. And so football, baseball, and all that stuff was basically just to keep me out of the house, right? Because there's not a lot of room in those places, right? So, I grew up playing baseball, playing football. I played basketball until I was a freshman. I kind of stayed short and chubby, and everybody else started getting tall. And I realized that basketball wasn't going to be my path. But exercise-wise, back in the '80s and stuff, it was more of the Schwarzenegger and the try and just get buff and just rip and grip weights and curl and all that kind of shit, so I definitely had no idea of functional training type of situation. But I did have an athletic background, so I guess it makes sense that I kind of got into this stuff, but it definitely wasn't a goal of mine, by any situation to be coming into the coaching world or whatever. If it would have been in lines of like coaching Pee Wee football or coaching that type of stuff, right? But growing up in a town like that, you kind of ended up having this mindset of, if you get a job, whether you hate it or not, there's not a lot of them out there. So you just work whatever you can do, whether it brings you passion, whether it, just as long as it's paying the bills, it's your path. It seems, right. Most people there go off to the military. There's a lot of them don't go off to Harvard or Yale. I mean, I'm sure there's a few, but it's not a lot. So I just kind of grew up with that, that blue collar, work hard, and a lot of people up there, bless them, but I won't say it's because they're unhappy or whatever, but it was like kind of like the men yelled a lot, I mean, it was the kids fought a lot. I've been in more fist fights than you could imagine. And I was always kind of a rough and tumble type of cat. But we actually moved from that little town when I was a sophomore in high school, 60 miles north of Seattle, to a bigger town. I mean, the town I grew up in, I had 23 kids in my graduating class, 1,000 people in the whole town. And then the school that I went to up in Mount Vernon, there's like 300 kids in my class, right? So the high school had more people than my town, right? So that was a good thing. Even though when my parents left, I stayed in Morton. I was like, I'm not going with you. I'm staying here. So I was like couch surfing with my buddies' couches and stuff. And then I realized that old adage was very true, that money doesn't grow on trees. And luckily, as a kid, I understood that I'm not a freeloader, and I wasn't going to just eat my friends' food and sleep on their couches and not contribute, and trying to play sports and all that stuff. I wasn't able to make a lot of money working up there. There's like, not a lot of jobs. And so I ended up moving with my family to Mount Vernon. And in hindsight, it was a great deal because, I got a lot more culture, got to be around a lot more different personalities, got into a bigger school, some more things started to open up. But at that period of my life, I was a real prick because of that moving thing. I held it against my parents. We fought a lot. Things just weren't that smooth. And that culminated into one day, my mom and I getting into such a big fight that I actually spent the night in jail because I kicked a table over when I was in this fit of anger. And in Washington, if I'm not proud of this, obviously, but if the police are called, somebody's going to jail. They don't give a shit who it is, either the person that called or the person that was in it. And then that obviously was like a holy shit, buddy, you need to figure some stuff out. And and a little side story about the jail thing, I highly recommend not going there. But if you do, don't be a smart ass, because I was a smart ass. So they gave me like triple extra large pants to wear and an extra small shirt and like size 6 like shower shoes. So I had to hold my pants and I had to shuffle around this place. And anyways, that that led me to getting out and going straight to the military. You know, it was you know, I had opportunities to go play some like junior college baseball and all that stuff, but the way I was then, I would have just you know, my master would have been in keg stands and chasing chicks. You know, I knew that that wasn't going to work for me. So I went off to the military, and that was an amazing experience. You know, I spent I was stationed in Coronado, California, which I don't know if any of you guys have been to California.
I have been, yeah.
Yep. Big place though.
Yeah. It's bigger than England.
I drove up it actually. I did is it Route 1 up from LA all the way up to San Francisco?
Something like that. Yeah.
I drove all the
Beautiful
way up
to drive.
It was great.
Yeah. I was in Coronado, which is just right in San Diego. It's just a little island that you take a bridge over from San Diego. You know, probably the average wage of the people that lived there at the time was, you know, like you were poor if you were making 500 grand, you know, I mean, it was that kind of community. But also at that base, that's where the Navy SEALs were and, you know, EOD, you know, a bunch of badasses. It was definitely the place that you didn't go out on town and talk shit because more than likely you were going to get what you had coming for you, you know, but
that would be the equivalent here would be Hereford, which is a tiny little town in it's in Wales, isn't it? It's just across the border, but that's near where the SAS train. Special services.
Probably a good idea to just behave in places like that. But you know, I did that thing, deployed over to that Mogadishu thing, you know, when that Black Hawk Down stuff was going down and all that kind of thing. And, you know, that was eye-opening as a 19-year-old kid. And I think that really shaped a lot of how I ended up after that. You know, when you're in a place like that where we literally had people offer their children to us for water, you know, and then you come back to America and people are bitching because their steak wasn't done right, you know, and you're just like, what? You know, what is wrong with you people? And then current events today, you know, I mean, due to the, you know, not offending people, you know, I have to be very careful on social media to really share my real thoughts on what's going on in today's world and all this stuff. And I have to self-censor, even though I don't know. I'm pretty frustrated by all this, to be quite honest. You know, everything that's going on. But anywho,
do you feel that you were in the military? I think was it about 8 years? You said, I heard you say, and you feel that at that stage of your life, that was kind of just what you needed. Was that a good move for you? That was eye opening, like you say. You learned a lot, but that was good for you.
Yeah, you know, because, well, the first things first, you learn a lot of discipline right away, right? You go off to boot camp and I feel like I was a fairly disciplined guy anyways, you know, but you know, you learn how to be a good team player. You learn how to, I mean, people say that the military has racism in it and shit. That's total bullshit. You know, I mean, I was serving with people from all walks of life, and, you know, we all got along. I mean, we jabbed at each other like any 19-year-olds would, and, you know, but it was equally jabs, you know, like, you know, everybody just kind of picked on each other, and that was part of being part of the team. You know, if you weren't getting messed with, and you weren't liked, you know, but yeah, it definitely shaped a lot of things, but that also makes it hard when you get out, you know, because you have this brotherhood and you have this team unit and you have a mission, you know, right. It's just something that's hard to explain. It's, you know, it's like a sports team, you know, or whatever, but even more intense, the relationships.
Do you still see like the guys who you were in with? Because like you've just, I mean, I've not been in the military, but, you know, I know it's kind of one of those things that you can't really talk to anybody about other than someone else who's been in it, because they get it and nobody else does.
Yeah, no,
So,
I do keep in touch with a few of the guys that I was real tight with, and you're exactly right. You know, even amongst people that that serve, you know, if someone served in Afghanistan and someone served in Somalia, you know, you kind of get it, but you don't, unless unless you walked in the same boots as that other person over there. But you know, but yeah, totally. And it's nice to have, obviously, people that experience the same stuff with you to, you know, to bounce stuff off of. And you know, and the Somalia thing, you know, it wasn't like your typical war. It was a little different than that. I mean, you got shot at randomly on the daily and all these types of things, but you know, I wasn't kicking down doors and running into buildings and, you know, dodging RPGs all day. It was kind of a different experience than that. You know, I mean, I would say the hardest part of all that was just being around, you know, dying kids and you know, and just pure just hell on earth. You know, I mean, it was just sad. It was more sad than it was anything else. You know, I mean, the random shots when you're driving through town or whatever, you just hear like a pop, 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 and you're like, you know, you kind of get used to that stuff, believe it or not. But the just seeing all that despair and all that stuff, it can weigh on a person, you know, a little bit, for sure.
How did you process that?
I didn't, you know, and that's the thing, right? I would say my anxiety problems that I deal with still to this day, and like depression stuff, I would say that a lot of that I had before I even went in, you know, just from childhood and all these things, you know, but of course, you know, being in a place like that probably stacked on that a little bit, you know, but I didn't process it, and I didn't start processing it until this last year. You know, I started talking to VA counselors and all that type of stuff, and, you know, trying to dig deeper into why I have these tendencies to go down these black holes and all that, you know, and I can't recommend that enough, you know, and that, I think it's changing more and more these days, with like real hardcore men, which I don't consider myself one of those, but like real hardcore men are, you know, coming out there and they're talking about their struggles more these days. And, you know, you know, because while you're in, you can't really talk about that, especially if you're in a highly effective unit that's going around kicking down doors, because now your teammates are like, I don't trust this guy anymore because, you know, maybe he has this PTS thing, or maybe, you know, so I think a lot of those guys hold that in while they're in, and then and they don't process it, and then they get out and they've lost their team, and next thing you know, they feel alone, and they're in, you know, they go from a tier 1 thing, and then they're working at a freaking Costco, you know, and it's just impossible to think that you can be in, you know, we've had 20 years of war, and these guys have been multiple tours and just years and years and years of all this stuff, and then one day they're out. You know, it's like, what do I do now? You know,
it's funny what you just said, actually, because I mean, like obviously the military, like we've just said, is hard to understand, but people go through this with everyday life, right? And just handling problems. And I saw an interesting quote from Jordan Peterson the other day, and you can, you know, if you know who he is, you can like him or not like him. It doesn't matter. You don't have to, like, you know, he says a lot of controversial things. You don't have to agree with his politics and all that, but it said, and it depends on your definition of weak and strong and all of that.
Yeah.
But what you just said, you know, these hardcore guys are now going and seeking counseling, but that kind of makes you hardcore, doesn't it? Because his quote was somewhere, I might get this wrong, but it was like, if you think being strong is destructive or whatever, or strong men can be destructive and all that, wait until you see what weak men can do, or weak people can do, you know. And it's kind of like, because when you're weak, you're just out to get everything, aren't you? You're out, everything's against you, and you're out to kind of, you know, to kind of prove yourself or something like that. Whereas if you consider yourself strong and can handle anything, that means you've dealt with all that stuff, you know. Whether it's so like you were saying about hardcore sort of people coming out of the army and stuff, that makes them more hardcore, in my opinion, to go and deal with it, which is like you've said, like what you're doing. So that's I love that. It's great.
Yeah, no, it does take courage to seek help. I think so, you know.
So given that you're in an environment which was highly pressured, and an environment also where you saw what would traditionally be, you know, poverty, perhaps the enemy, perhaps all these different, quite, for most people, quite an extreme perspective on the world. When you come back and now you're a trainer and you're working with everyday people, and very small things can knock people off track, how do you process that based on your experience, and also kind of what you know needs to be done to get that person on track? Is that a difficult thing to play in your mind, or do you find that you can draw upon it in a positive way to help them?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a trainer, you are a marriage counselor. You are a shrink of sorts, you know, and you know, I do believe that that I relate to my clients well, because I wear my stuff on my sleeve. You know, they know that I battled demons, and they know all this stuff. And you know, I just think that you know, coming from somebody that that's been there, and me having an understanding what all that stuff is like, I think it's much easier for me to give advice, or to relate on a level that with the person that that does help me, you know, come across to them and reach them deeply. You know, I mean, I've got people that deal with depression, anxiety, and all these things. And, you know, we just take that hour, and I just, you know, try and talk them into just, you know, releasing all of that and just being present, you know, just like spend this next hour. It's just me, you, and getting stronger, and all, you know, and all that stuff just carries over into their everyday life, you know.
So rather than being, because it's often sometimes say, oh, I can't do this because of this, that, and the other. I can't do this because that looks too heavy, or I can't make this session because I haven't got any time. Rather than saying, well, for God's sake, just pull yourself together. I've seen worse.
No.
Yeah, you would be able to say, actually, I understand some of the struggles you're going through. I've been through it, and I've seen both sides of the coin. And look, here's a way of working through it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. No, you're
what
right.
What you're saying, Paul, to put a bit of lightness on this, is he's like John Goodman in The Big Lebowski. He doesn't go like, when I was in Vietnam, this was it, and he changed like everything.
No,
I think that's actually one of the that's one of the biggest, or one of the most important traits, I think, of being a successful and effective trainer, coach, is empathy, isn't it? And that ability to actually listen, and to, like you say, to engage with someone, and to try and relate to them, and try and understand where they're coming from. So that's
was a huge weight on people's shoulders, isn't it? I mean, I was speaking to someone yesterday, and you could, you know, it's people are often frozen to do nothing, but their entire being is consumed by not having the health that they want. You know, I spoke to someone yesterday, and they looked at themselves in the mirror, and they just didn't recognize themselves. They weren't happy. And it's like, you know, unless you address it, your well-being can completely derail the potential for happiness that you have in your life. And that's to say it's a fix for everything, but it's such a powerful thing if you get right. And most people carry this huge weight of expectation and disappointment or whatever. And I suppose you understand that by the sound of it. You've experienced so many different sides to your life, and perspectives, and emotional depths, that you can instantly connect to that person.
Absolutely. You know, and you know, I'm not going to lie that being in that coaching role, you know, my wheelbarrow is full of, you know, of emotion and all this stuff. And I'm more of an introvert in an extrovert job. You know, when I'm in the gym, it's truly the only place that I really feel that I'm safe, and that I am doing what I'm meant to do. You know,
I get that.
So when I'm in that realm, I'm super happy, I'm where I'm at. But with that said, when I'm taking on the emotions and the problems of the other people while I'm in that environment, it's just, I feel hard. I'm an emotional person. You know what I mean? I take on their happiness, I take on their pain, and I can't help not. And so by the end of a work day, my wheelbarrow's fucking full, and that makes it hard in like relationships outside of the gym, because when I get home, I'm like, oh, I just want to completely not talk or do anything. I just want to hide in my own little place for a little while to process things. I don't know, but yeah, it does make it tricky, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I mean, that's an interesting thing we've never really addressed, isn't it? I mean, it's regardless of it being, as our perspective as coaches, anyone who works with people, I think whether it's a psychologist, doctor, nurses, teachers, you name it, when you've got a very kind of hands-on a relationship with people, clients, and you're seeing a lot of emotion or whatever, you are a bit like a sponge at times. And at the same time, you have to keep a very professional demeanor, because you are providing a service after all. And how you then process that, because it can be mentally exhausting, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, when it comes to relationship stuff, I have to, like, when I, make it understood that when I get home, I need 20 minutes or something. The drive isn't enough, right? I just need to just be me for a minute. And usually what I've been doing these days is I do a lot of dry fire practice with my pistols and stuff, because I'm really, I really enjoy shooting, so I go into the garage, I have this little laser target thing. I spend some time just defragging, doing that, and then, going back into, okay, I'm here, I'm available now, so I think it's important for people that date coaches or people in these type of industries to give some leeway to these type of people and let them have a moment to kind of defrag and just kind of recenter before getting back into being that partner or being and that's not for everybody, but for people like me, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that works for just all relationships, I think.
Absolutely.
Everyone has stressful days at work, regardless of what they do, who they are. Like, my girlfriend's a teacher, so we both get each other for that, because she obviously has that. You get that at schools, don't you? And you get this. It's a similar sort of thing. Teaching, coaching, anything like that. But it works out for anybody's day, doesn't it? Just ask your partner when they get home, how was your day? That's all some people want. And then they can either say, I don't want to talk about it, and go off and do whatever they want, or tell you about it, offload themselves for 10 minutes. And then it's like, right, I'm done now. So what we're going to do.
Yeah. And that's, that's the other real important thing about this, like depression, anxiety, these things, it's not just for cops or military people or, I mean, every walk of life, and what's a big deal to somebody is nothing to another person. It's just, that mental health stuff is tough, and especially over these last couple of years, obviously, as like, if you're a person listening to this and you're like, well, why should I be depressed? There's people that have been in war for 20 years, don't go there. You're fighting your own fight. And
I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who is struggling right now, and it was like, why are you struggling? It was like, well, I've been busy at work, this and that. And basically she's just gone through the menopause, and we've just had during COVID, when everyone's been locked down. So I was like, do you reckon that might have had something to do with it? And it was like, yeah. And I was like, just drawing it out. It's like, it could be work, it could be pressure, but let's face it, all this other stuff is going to put pressure, like even more pressure on you, isn't it? Especially changing mood and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, like you say, like people are dealing with lots of stuff, aren't they?
Yeah. And the key is just asking for help, I mean, it's like anything else, right? You go to the dentist to keep your teeth clean, you go to your physical therapist to work on your little injuries here and there. But, same with the freaking brain, man. You need to,
Did you ask for
check
help?
in on it.
Did you ask for help when you left?
Yeah, well, the first time that I asked for help, it's when I kind of hit rock bottom. I had a night where I was destined to shoot myself in the face, and that was years ago, when I was like 35 or something. And I've talked about it many times, going through divorce. It was during the housing crash. I was working a job that was supposed to be a retirement job, but I got up to like 250 pounds, hating my job, all these things. And it all came to a head, and then I had a family doctor that I would just go to my physicals for, and he was actually a ex-Navy physician. And, I went in there and just fell on my knees, and I couldn't even talk, I was just crying, and he was like, wow, buddy, and then he set me up with an appointment with a therapist. I went into that thing, 45 minutes of just being a blabbling, crying person, and then I didn't go back. I didn't go back. I just went and tried to deal with it on my own. And kettlebells came along during all that, trying to deal with it on my own. Thank God. But I didn't really get serious about my mental health until just this last year, honestly, and it's been huge. I've really discovered a lot about my triggers and, the whys more, and, skills, just like, if you want to get better at your get up, practice going to the elbow, and mental health is a lot of the same way. You start getting these tools, these practice things that to go to when you're starting to feel this stuff, versus it just being this foreign thing in your head that you don't understand, that you have no idea why you're like this, and you just kind of deal with it. I heard a guy the other day talking about explaining what his stuff is like, and he's like, I get up in the morning, it's a Saturday, I have nothing to do, I just get to chill. But inside, it feels like I'm rushing in New York in traffic to get to an interview or something, that if I don't make it, my life is over, and it's just running on that all the time, and then if you do that for years, that just becomes your baseline. You don't even know what it's like not to have that feeling of just like, like, I don't know, like, there's people that run around, they don't understand why, but they've lived with it so long that they don't know the other side of it, that, they never are fully relaxed. They never are fully at peace, even when they're supposed to be at peace, because they're doing a peaceful thing. And, and that's kind of where I've realized that I've been running on for a long time. It's you got fight, flight, or freeze. And people like that are dealing with these things are just constantly in this fight mode, and they don't even understand it. It's just become their baseline, and it's not a great place to live, man.
Is that when you think someone gets to the point where they're not, it gets talked about a lot these days, doesn't it? But they're not being present in what they're doing. So
100%.
Even if
100%.
you've got nothing to do on that Saturday, I mean, my weekends are pretty much like that. I don't really have stuff to do, but I do stuff, and I plan what I'm going to do. Because if I don't, I end up doing nothing. And that, I think that's what you're talking about. Like, people go through every single day doing that. Like, either at work, they're reacting to everything that's going on around them. They haven't got anything scheduled in. They're just putting out fires all day. And then when they get home, they're too tired to do anything else because they've been putting out fires all day, or they're trying to keep everyone at home happy as well. And then weekends, it's like, well, I haven't got anything to do, so I end up doing nothing, but I feel like I should be doing loads. And then that just creates loads of overwhelm around a normal life that everybody has to deal with, doesn't it? So that's interesting when you say that, I think, because that's quite there's quite a lot of people, and then obviously you go and look at social media and you see everyone else is having a great time. And you're not.
I know. I'm actually taking a 30-day break from that
I
jazz
saw
right
that.
now. You know, deleted it all off my phone, and just
how does that help? Because you do that quite a lot, don't you? You do it like once a year or so, at least.
Yeah, I usually try, take a couple of weeks here and there, and but this time I just want to take a 30-day stretch. And I wasn't going to talk about this, but as a matter of fact, on Friday I'm going in for a procedure. It's called the stellar ganglion block, and when it's I'm actually going to be getting a shot in my neck, in this the ganglion nerve. And basically how it's explained to me is when you are in this state of feeling like you have to make it to a meeting when you don't have one all the time, this nerve gets damaged and it doesn't know how to turn off the fight or flight thing, right? So this procedure I'm going to be getting on Friday, it's like a reboot for that. It's like a reset for your nervous system almost, right? And they've been doing it for many years, but they've just now started to realize the effects of it on PTS, and and it could be anything from someone being in a bad car wreck and not knowing that affected them, or people that grew up with childhood trauma, or obviously people that have been in wars and all this type of stuff. And so I'm pretty freaked out about it, because I don't know. I don't know.
So is that's coinciding with it? So you've kind of done that because you're going to have this procedure done, and you just wanted to, like you say, this 30-day off of all social media, just to allow you to go and do this and be private and be present and just to have no pressure to respond to things and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They recommend, once you do this to try and avoid a whole lot of unneeded stimulation and just let the procedure set in, and it's pretty amazing thing. This one shot gives some people relief up to like 8 to 10 years. And people have said before the needle even leaves the neck, they went from, just being trying to get to that meeting to feeling like they're walking on a country road. I'm pretty.
Oh wow, we'll have to. I really look forward to hearing and seeing how that goes. Because I've never heard of that before. Is that something? Has anyone that had this procedure done before? Is there anyone personally who's had this done? Or
not personally, just through lots of research. I've a lot of people that I look up to, like for instance, this guy named Dakota Meyer, a Marine that got the Medal of Honor over there in Iraq, and he said it changed his life completely. And there's just tons of stories like that. Everything from just everyday walk of life people that have had a lot of trauma in their life, just completely changed everything for them. Just how they're able to respond to everyday life, sleeping better, just all these things. Like I take medication to sleep. If I don't take my medication, I won't sleep. I've gone on a little weekend getaway and forgot it and not slept for 36 hours. So I'm excited about it, apprehensive about it, of course, but the worst side effect is paralysis, so that's kind of a big deal. But but I made a deal with some people. If that happens, they're just going to take me to a lake and turn their head, and I'm just going to fall out of my chair or something like that. But
I was going to say I've got a question for you now, actually, because we've just dealt with a lot there. So coming back to being a coach, you've said you've done because like this is basically I'm thinking about like what the listeners might be thinking about as they're listening to all this. Because lots of people, I've had it as well. Lots of people have got jobs that they don't particularly like, but they have to do them to earn money, to look after their family, and feel trapped in it, and not necessarily feel trapped, but don't enjoy it. And then, it kind of spirals. And then 10 years down the line, you're like, I could have done something 10 years ago and what have you, but it doesn't matter because it's all done. But you've done that. You said, I listened to your interview with Alex Salkin, and you said, you were a truck driver and all of that sort of stuff, and you put on loads of weight and it made you feel down, and all that. So you've done all that. So you've got the contrast of now you're doing what you really enjoy. So how much of a difference, but, and the reason why I'm asking this question is because we know you love it and we know it's put you in a better place. However, you're still going to need to get this procedure done, and you're still looking, you're still not entirely where you want to be, say. So, but you're obviously every day you're getting closer and closer and closer to that, even though you never really get there, do you? We know this as coaches and stuff like that, which is a hard thing to deal with. But once you deal with that, you're like, well, okay, it's a journey and we're going on it, and we're all going on it, and we're going to bloody do it. So how much of a difference has it made being a coach to all of your kind of mental state and what have you?
Yeah, that's great question. I think that being in this world where I'm living in passion, I have this place of passion, surrounded by people that are seeking self-improvement, or they wouldn't be there. I think that has opened up the door for me to want to seek more help. If I was still doing some grind job that I hated, I would probably not be seeking help. It like, I don't know how to explain that, but it opened up something in me. It made me see my value. When I get feedback from people that I've really helped them and all this stuff, it gave me some more self-worth, some more self-pride, some stuff like that, which I think really helped open that door for me to seek deeper help. And I tell people all the time, man, if I approach my mental health like I approach my gym workouts, or even if I just approach my everyday life like I approach my gym workouts, I would be so squared away, but it takes work, and I just wasn't willing to do that work, or maybe I wasn't motivated to do that work on that end. I've said many times up until this last year that kettlebell saved my life, and in a lot of ways they did, but it's not the cure all. I would have told you 5 years ago, just fucking exercise, just do it, and it's going to change everything for you. But it's more than that. That will maybe get you in that mindset or that confidence in yourself to seek more help. It's really hard when you're living with no passion, to have that passion to be better, and I tell people all the time, that doesn't take going to the gym and trying to fucking do a beast get up. Maybe for some people that's just walking a minimum of 30 minutes a day for 30 days in a row, something so simple, but just forcing yourself to get up, and right when your alarm goes off, just put on your fucking sneakers and set a timer for 15 minutes and just walk in one direction. When it goes off, turn around and walk back. Just anything to get that stuff kickstarted. With that social media and stuff, you're seeing people do all this amazing things out there, and someone's having an amazing vacation, but you don't see the drive to the vacation where those people were fighting and someone wanted to jump out of the car before they even got there. Nobody sees that. All they see is the people's happiest moments, and half of them are bullshit. These Instagram influencers, they'll drive, go to a pool, get out, take a fucking picture, and leave. They're not even staying at the hotel that they say they're at. It's just a bunch of hocus pocus, right? And that's why I've always tried to be semi-real on there, and talk about my struggles and show missed lifts and all this stuff, because that pressure of trying to live up to these fake things out there is a lot, and again, thinking that you know, that fitness means having to have a six pack and all that stuff to get any benefit out of it, or has to be this extreme workout, you know. No, you know, walk, just start walking, and then that turns into something else, and that turns into something else, or whatever, you know.
James put something up the other day. I think you put it up, James, with the saying that people. So Jeff's just said, you know, I would have said just like ages ago, kettlebell saved my life. I did fitness and all that, but now, say 10 years down the line, it's kind of like, well, actually, that's true, but there's more to it. And was it you put it up, James? And it was a quote from the Daily Stoic or something, and it was like, people just get on with doing stuff to hide, you know, they do more stuff to hide the actual. I can't remember what the quote was. It was to hide actually who you really are.
Yeah, it was a quote. It was a quote from the book. Yeah, it was a quote from the book that I'm reading at the moment.
That was
which is Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. But I'm reading that, and that really ties into. There's so much going through my head at the moment talking with Jeff here today.
Yeah.
But it says we are a culture of people who've bought into the idea that if we stay busy enough, the truth of our lives won't catch up with us.
Yeah.
And
but you can channel that into anything, right? Like you can channel it into fitness and go, I'm getting fitter, but you're just keeping yourself busy in fitness or whatever. So it's,
I mean, I think one of the biggest things for me, I mean, I was talking to a friend of the show, Paul Field, is a big fan of Jeff's on friend of the show, Paul Field is a big fan of Jeff's on Instagram. And I just love, I mean, when we came on here today to talk with you, Jeff, I had no idea the conversation. It often happens on these things. I had no idea the direction the conversation was going to take, and the fact that we've actually not even discussed training or kettlebells or whatever is not a bad thing. It's just gone in a direction. But I think that the so many people will view, and I know you are very honest on your Instagram, and but people look up to you because of your strength, your physical strength that they see on Instagram and things, and they see you doing, you know, these great things with kettlebells with impeccable technique, and it looks great. But I think this conversation is really, you know, it's what Instagram and all social media isn't, is it? That's all surface kind of stuff. And like you say, I mentioned to someone the other day, and I said, really, social media is the edited highlights of people's lives, isn't it? That you see the, you know, the edited highlights, the bits that people want you to see. And I know that you try and be authentic, and many of us try and be authentic. But I think having this deep conversation with you is, if anything, and again, it's to the Brene Brown book I'm reading at the moment, which is actually around strength and vulnerability. The way you've been so open and so vulnerable on this conversation, actually, the nub of the book is that many people see vulnerability as weakness and being vulnerable as being weak, especially men. And I think that the way you've spoke today has shown vulnerability as being very, you know, incredibly strong, and you're incredibly strong physically, and you're incredibly strong, you know, emotionally and everything to kind of have the conversation you've had. So yeah, there's so much going through my head at the moment. It's been really interesting. Been so interesting talking to you. And it feels a bit kind of trite now to sort of go back to saying, well, how do you do a kettlebell press, and how do you do a swing, and how have these things, you know, impacted you? Because what you're talking about is so much bigger. I mean,
however, it can all come back to that if you're doing it for the right reasons, right? This is the thing. A kettlebell press, being able to do a set of 10 with whatever bell that you've been aiming towards doing it. We know about this because we've all done it. It feels great.
Yeah.
But if absolutely. It feels great just for the sake of feeling great, then so what? But if it feels great because you've overcome all this stuff along the way, all of this other stuff, physically and mentally and all of that, then actually it's like you were saying, Jeff, earlier, you know, getting fitter in that is more than just lifting stuff. It's the whole package, isn't it? And that's that's what's hard to get across for people to understand.
Yeah. And I'll say that, like, one of the biggest powers and benefits of kettlebell training for me personally is is when I'm doing them, I'm so focused on what I'm doing that everything else in the world is quiet. You know, and that's what we need, right? Like, we need hobbies, we need things that outside of our everyday life that we can just shut it all off and be present. You know, like when I go to the pistol range, it's 100% pure focus. You know, you have a loaded weapon, you know, and it's that moment where my focus is just on the front side of my pistol for an hour. I'm not focused on anything outside of that. That is just exactly what I'm focusing on. And when I lose focus on that, my round doesn't hit the target where I want it, right? You know, and when I'm kettlebell training, I have that same amount of focus. You know, it's just me, my kettlebell, trying to get better at it. And that is so freaking powerful for people that have that like squirrel brain stuff, you know, like any gym's great, you know, going to the gym. But if you're going to a gym where CNN's up on the wall and you're on a bike and you're seeing the news and you're seeing clips of riots and you know, that to me is not being present in your health. That is distraction, you know. And like most kettlebell gyms, you know, like ours, there's not even a mirror, right? I mean, you know, it's just a moment, whether it be 30 minutes, whether it be 60 minutes, where it's just you, the kettlebell, and, you know, it's a complete release for me, you know. And I think that is one of the huge powers and of exercise, just that alone. And a kettlebell even more so, because it's so, if you're technically driven, right? And I'm obsessed with technique, right? So you know, it sounds cliche, but I don't work out, man. I just fucking practice. And when I'm practicing, somehow I've turning 49 in June, you know, I can walk in the gym right now without even warming up and grab a 56 kg kettlebell and do 5 and 5 get-ups, you know. I mean, and that is just from 12 years of just turning off everything and focusing on me and my kettlebells, you know.
Strength training is a great environment, I think, to practice things without too much fear of failure. I mean, people bring a lot of emotion to these things, but in reality, when it's done really well, and particularly under the guidance of a coach, you can make mistakes in almost like a childlike way, where there is no threat, there's no social disgrace or anything like that. You can just work on your technique. You can either lift it or you can't. And if you did lift it, you can always lift it a little bit better. And it doesn't matter if you've got an outcome or whatever at the end of the session. The fact is you're doing it, and over time you'll get better. And I think a lot of our clients, particularly ones that commit to regular training over, you know, 2-3 times a week over a period of months, suddenly realize that they move from burning calories, they move from getting a sweat on, and they break through that initial barrier of fear that they have, and they just get into this practice mindset and this growth mindset. Because I don't care whether or not they pick a 8 kilo up or a 12 kilo up or whatever. I'm just more interested that they're just engaging with themselves, and it's that practice.
Right.
Which is quite a safe environment to do it in, isn't it?
Right. And, you know, that carries over to your everyday life, right? You know, I mean, if you fail a lift in the gym and you just quit, more than likely you're going to quit in life, you know. So it's a great training ground to overcome and to say, fuck that. This load may beat me today, but it ain't going to beat me tomorrow, or maybe even next month, you know.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever cleaned up a couple of kettlebells and started doing a session with them and thought, have I got the right ones here? As in, some days they'll feel really light and you're like, I've picked up the wrong bells here, they're too light. And other days you're like, I've picked up the 28s instead of the 24s or something like that. And you've picked up the right ones. It's just on one particular day feeling good, on another particular day you're not. Have you ever done that, everyone?
Mine are color-coded.
Yeah. No, all the time. And, you know, and I try and tell people in the gym, it's like, you meet the gym at where you're at today, you know, today. maybe you didn't sleep last night. Maybe you've had a very stressful week. Maybe who knows what the situation is, but it's just meet it where you're at today. One day I've slept well, my nutrition is on, the 24s feel like 12s. One day my life is heavy and everything is heavy in the gym. It's just meet the gym at where you're at today. Have that power to check your ego and just be okay with just moving, even if it's not a PR day. If someone PRs every day, they're full of shit because they've never tested themselves.
Yeah.
It's just all about enjoying that journey. And it's
You've
a
got to be
lifelong
consistent
journey.
to do that, haven't you? Though you've got to keep showing
Absolutely.
up regularly.
Absolutely. And people ask me, what's my secret? It's consistency, man. Ever since I found the kettlebell, over the last 12 years, I averaged 3 workouts a week, period. And I've never stopped. That's it. Why am I doing 56 kg get-ups? Well, for 12 years, I've been doing get-ups at least 3 times a week. It's going to happen. It's just having patience and enjoying the process and understanding, that, one day is going to be a strong day. One day's not, but, some of my best workouts are ones I tried to talk myself out of doing, where I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym today. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I just want to sleep. And I'm like, well, screw it, man. You know how it feels when you're done. Go in there, even if it's a light day, who cares? You're going to be proud of yourself. And that day turns into a PR. And I'm like, holy shit, I would have missed that PR today if I just would have listened to my brain telling me not to do this today, but I did it anyways, and that doesn't mean work through pain. That doesn't mean be stupid. That means, take that opportunity to go in there, get some movement in, and just see where that day takes you,
There's a philosophical question behind that as well. If you went to the gym that day thinking you're going to have a great session, would you have got that PR? Do you know what I mean?
Who knows?
Because you might not be fired up enough because you haven't got the thing of I'm going to have a rubbish session, so I need to be more on it. It's honestly, it opens up all of that because I remember when I used to get drunk a lot and all that when I was younger, and I'd say exactly the same thing. Some of the best nights were when you didn't want to go out, and then you'd have a great night. Do you know what I mean? It works for everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that the gym isn't the cure all for everyone, but it's damn close. It may not cure everything, but it is going to shore up something in your life, whether it be confidence, whether, who knows, what it's going to do for you, but it's huge, and I'm also, and I don't do it enough. Right. But I'll go through these stretches of just having a minimum daily routine, like right when I'll go through phases. Right when I wake up, I do that Wim Hof breath. I go take a cold shower. I do 10 push-ups, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 4, do that ladder. And, it just kind of like sets your day up for success, versus waking up and grabbing the phone, looking at Instagram, being pissed because of this or pissed, so it doesn't, like I said, man, it doesn't have to be like going to the gym and crushing things, it's just start with some minimum daily routine, like taking that walk or, like putting yourself, like, I hate taking cold showers, I fucking hate it. It's but I stand outside the cold shower and I go, it's not going to kill you, dude. It's going to suck for 3 minutes, but it's not going to kill you. And then when I get out of that, the rest of my day is like, fuck it, man. I just took this cold shower. I didn't want to do it, but when I got out, I felt better, and I faced something I didn't want to face first thing in the morning, and it just kind of sets you up, right?
I've actually just started doing that. I've known about cold showers for years, obviously. I say obviously. I mean, that's because I'm like, everyone knows who Wim Hof is. Everyone we speak to anyway. But we talk a lot on this podcast about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I've not been doing the cold shower thing because I'm like, I don't want to. It'll be uncomfortable. So then I was like,
Yeah.
no, honestly. And then this is what's great about doing this every week. We talk to people like you and everyone else who we've talked to. And it's like, you get reminded again and again and again, and it's in your head again and again and again. So I was like, do you know what? I just need to suck it up and go and do it. And you say you hate it. I actually quite enjoy it. You do the breathing while I have I have my normal shower first. And then I start doing deep breath in, deep breath out, and then just whack it up cold. And if you keep doing that breathing, the shock goes away. And I stand there and I'm like, I could go longer, but I'm just going to switch it off because there's no point going longer now. So I'm probably doing like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And I could do way longer, but then I'm like, actually, that's it. That's all I need. And like you say, it wakes you up and it makes you feel like, well, if I can do that, I can go off and have a great day.
It's empowering, man. And
you know,
you speak of Jordan Peterson, you know, and I think one of the problems in society today is we're just too comfortable, man. You know, we're meant to overcome and to have things that push us in life, you know, that need to eat, that need to protect, that need, you know, but when you can come home and you don't feel like cooking and you just hit an app and food shows up at your door, you know, you have a self-driving car, you know, everything's climate controlled, you know, it's just like there's so much comfort in this world that it almost seems that people with our natural instincts to overcome create discomfort for no reason whatsoever, you know. And it's strange to me, you know. And you know, there's that quote, you know, the whatever it is, and I'm butchering it, of course, but you know, good times create weak men, you know, and hard times create hard men, and all this jazz, right? You know, and I just think as a society, you know, we need to toughen up a little bit. You know, we need to, you know, we just need to not be so damn emotional and just, you know, and that's easy to say. I'm emotional as all hell, you know, but like, you know, like if you hate where you're at, but yet you can get food delivered to your house, you know, you have the freedoms to do all these things, then, you know, maybe you need to go to a place like Somalia or something like that to realize how good you have it. To really respect and have a love for your country and have a love for your community and all this stuff, you know, versus finding reasons to hate it, you know. And Seattle is a place right now where, you know, I got my tires slashed because I had an American flag on my car, you know, and to me that is just unacceptable, you know. You know, especially when you live in a place where you have all this stuff and you're just creating all these first world problems, you know. That
I had someone, another thing about social media, I had someone comment. So I've got like a logo done and all that sort of stuff from a business, and it's based on something my dad did 40 years ago and all of that. So I had it tattooed on my chest because that's how much I believe in it, right?
Love it.
And I had moved towards freedom. So I'm 45 and I got my first tattoo. Well, I was 44 at the time. I was 2 weeks before my 45th birthday. But anyway, and it says move towards freedom, right? Around the thing, because I believe, you know, I'm thinking like movement and all of that, and it creates freedom in your life so you can go and do whatever. I posted it online and someone said, in the current climate, do you think people might think you're an anti-vaxxer and all of this other sort of stuff because of that? And I was like, no, I don't think that. And if they do, they can piss off because it doesn't mean that at all. This is something from 40 years ago. You know what I mean? And I was just like, really?
Yeah. No, I know, man. I mean, yeah, I could spend hours talking about that kind of stuff, and, you know, and then you wouldn't be able to play this because it gets censored in the US, you know, because you have to agree with what everybody else is saying these days, or you're a racist.
Joe Rogan gets away with it, so why can't we?
Yeah, right. But yeah, you know, I don't know. I just think as a whole, there's just too much division these days, and like, you know, people don't give the benefit. You know, like the other day I posted a little thing. It's like, hey, person A hates kettlebells, person B loves them. You know, persons A and B can be great friends, you know. Yes. It's okay. It's okay. You know, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to disagree respectfully, you know, that there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you know, just think about how much people are limiting themselves by just being in this bubble of just everybody that thinks exactly the same with them. That's very limiting. I mean, it really, really is. Yeah.
Right. I think what we better do is start to wrap up on that. I think we're going
Oh, yeah.
just over an hour, but no, it's absolutely brilliant. And what I want to say first of all, Jeff, is I really hope your procedure that's coming up. Is it this week? Did you say, or next week?
Tomorrow by the time.
Friday to
Friday.
Tomorrow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope that goes absolutely brilliantly, and I'll be really interested to hear how that goes for you, and I hope everything goes smoothly, and you get the benefits from it, and that you've read about and that happen. Pete, do you want to say anything before we wrap up, before we leave?
You know what I do? This is going to sound weird, but everything Jeff just said there reminded me, because I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but it reminded me, I saw a thing the other day. You know Les Claypool from Primus, bass player. He's done a what you were saying just reminded me of this. So he's done a song with some other people, and one of them Stuart Copeland, the drummer from the Police, because he was in a band with him. But they've done a song inspired by President Zelensky of Ukraine, and it's called "Man with the Iron Balls." I just thought that was great. But the reason why I've said that is because I saw you put a post up once, Jeff, with Sergeant Thunderhoof as the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know Sergeant Thunderhoof, right? You listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their lead singer is one of my clients. How bonkers.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
Dan Flitcroft. Big shout out to Dan and Sergeant Thunderhoof. If you don't know who they are, look them up. They are very good. Bath-based band. They've got a big following in the US, a huge following in the US. Apparently, that's like their biggest following, bigger than the UK. And whenever they play gigs over here, they very rarely play in Bath. They play everywhere else because nobody in Bath knows who they are. But you put that up, and I was like, wow, Jeff's listening to the guy. It's him singing, and I'm standing right next to him. It's amazing.
Hey. Yeah, well, let him know that that those workouts that music gets me through a lot of heavy grinds. I
think I might have tagged the band in it actually. I think I commented on it and tagged the band. So yeah.
Yeah, they started following me on social media, so I followed them back, found them, but yeah, I listened to that stoner rock or that low grindy stuff when I train, and I love it. Yeah.
But Dan's a great example, actually, because he's been in music all his life. He owns a recording studio around here as well in Bath, and he called Stage 2 Studios. Let's have a shout out for them. So if we can advertise on this, can't we, if we like? But his other studios aren't available. Go to Stage 2. He's been in bands all his life, but then when they got really serious about it, he had to learn to sing properly and all of that, because he just started at the front shouting, and when he was like in his 20s, like having a great time. Then he's like, actually no, and he had singing lessons, and he's Mike Patton from Faith No More is one of his big idols, and he want 6-octave range and all this, and he's like, I want to be that good. So he just keeps learning, and they keep they've been together for years. So he's a great example of everything we've just been talking about, and he applies that to his music, and he's just so into it, and he's so into the music community around here. And his studio were doing they were in a program for helping young musicians coming through, so they would get free sessions in the studio to record songs and albums and stuff like that. So yeah, I just thought I'd give them a mention, actually, considering you they help you through your workouts.
Excellent.
I love it.
And Paul, do you have anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
Yeah, so if you're watching YouTube, my son had just interrupted me, so he's sitting on my lap for a little while. He's potty training, so anyway. No, I mean it's been great to finally meet you. I remember listening to your podcast with Strength Matters many. It was a fascinating story, and of the kettlebell at the time, and it's coming across people like yourself really gave me the confidence that I was on the right track, and I was making good decisions in my life, which I needed to do, so it's fantastic to hear how you process things, how you keep yourself focused, and the empathy that you have for your clients. I think is something that as a trainer, I certainly would aspire to myself as well. Thanks for coming on.
Brilliant. Yeah, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, if people want to, obviously you're not going to be doing a lot for the next 30 days on social media, but
bloody hell, this is rubbish.
Yeah, I'd really recommend, is the best way for people to kind of just be introduced to you and see what you do? Is it on the Instagram one?
Yeah. Instagram, and I do have a Facebook Sokol Strong thing that just shares from my Instagram, but I don't necessarily go there. And then, also, I've been working that Amazon Halo where I've put a few Kettlebell 101 videos up there for them and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's at Sokol, Sokol Strong on Instagram. And yeah, we didn't really get around to talking about it, but yeah, Jeff's been doing work with Amazon Halo, doing some really sort of professional programming and footage and exercise videos for them, but really bringing the skill-based element and the real precision that Jeff is sort of famous for to that platform, which is sometimes, more of a Peloton type thing. It's more of a kind of jump around type thing, but Jeff's really gone in there and taken his core, perspectives and skills and is doing it really properly. So if you're on Amazon Halo, you can go and check out Jeff on there as well. Thank you so much, Jeff. I really hope everything goes well, like I say, tomorrow for everything. Thank you for all the lists. Thank you to all the listeners. Please do like, share, subscribe to the Health Oddity podcast. If you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please do also leave a review. And if you'd like to come into the Facebook group, just go on Facebook, searching groups for Health Oddity and click to join on that, and then we'll let you in there. But thank you so much again, Jeff. I hope everything goes well, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. And for those that wanted to hear more about training philosophies and all that stuff, I'd love to come on again and go down that road. I know we got off track and some people probably wanted to learn some tips and tricks today, but, get your mind right and your body will follow,
No, that's definitely, yeah, we'll definitely hold you to that. That'll be fantastic to do another one with you at some stage in the future, Jeff. Thank you. So until next time, everybody, thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Oddity.